Before we begin, here's how to earn continuing professional education credit for attending this session. Gain valuable insights by attending the podcast, then complete the assessment test to download your certificate. To do this, follow these simple steps. Click on the link in your description to access the session. Create a free account and attend the podcast. After the podcast, take the assessment test and download your certificate. It's easy, and it's free. We highly recommend checking out our subscription.
Awesome. Before we learn a little bit more about the shared leadership, because that kind of piqued my interest, how we define shared leadership. First, I want to learn more about if it's applicable to today's organization, or even if we do, how that fits into different organization. Do you see a strong fit in any specific environment, or it can be used in any organization, in academia, or let's say in manufacturing organization? Um, What's your thought on that?
I think, So it looks like you probably think the concept of shared leadership looks so cool and so nice,
Mhm.
but I'm sure, including some of the audience of this podcast that might have a question that, is this concept of shared leadership really existing in the industry or exists working well, right?
Mhm.
So
Yes.
my answer is actually yes, because other than Manhattan Project, there are several the companies were applying the concept of this shared leadership already, such as Jappos or Airbnb and the famous W.L. Gore asset and so on. So among them, maybe can I give some more detailed information or example on the shared
Please.
leadership real world?
Yes, that would be awesome. Please do.
Okay, I see. So I'm going to explain about the case of the W.L. Gore and Associates and its very unique organization structure, the lattice structure. Lattice structure. So W.L. Gore and Associates, have you heard of that company? The
Uh,
Gore and Associates?
I have not.
Yeah, but probably you heard of the Gore tax.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another podcast of MyCPE, and where we delve into the most pressing topic in management, leadership, and organization development. I'm your host, Farhan Sadiq, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Jung Yu Park. Dr. Park is an assistant professor of management at the Chasnov School of Business in the School of Staten Island. Many people know that as CUNY. He brings a wealth of experience, having previously served as an assistant professor of management at Penn State Altoona and as a management consultant at Deloitte and Willis Tower Watson. Dr. Park has a fascinating academic background with a BA in Business Administration and an MBA and PhD in Business Administration, with a focus on management and organization from SSKU University in South Korea. Additionally, he earned another PhD in Workforce Education and Development with an emphasis in organization development from Penn State University. With such rich and diverse background, we are excited to have him here today to discuss leadership and its evolving role in today's dynamic work environment. Without further ado, welcome to the podcast, Dr. Park. It's
Thank you so
wonderful to
much.
have you with us.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Absolutely. So, Dr. Park, let's start from the beginning as we're going to talk a lot more about leadership. You have an extensive background in leadership and organization development. Before we dive into the deeper aspect of leadership, can you share with us how your experience has shaped your understanding and approach of leadership, or the cornerstones of leadership, if we may say?
Yeah, that's a really good question as the first question. Thank you so much, Dr. Fadik. So, I think that if you want to be an effective leader, it is very important to think about and clarify your own definition of leadership. So actually, this is my first question when I provide a lecture or workshop regarding leadership. So this is the question. So what is your cornerstone in your approach to leadership? So Dr. Sadiq, what do you think? What's your answer? What is your cornerstone in your approach to leadership?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. When I do leadership or when I think myself as a leader, I always try to think who am I leading? It's kind of like more experience based, and I always try to be the model that I want everyone to be. So it's kind of leading with example is something I always come to when I think about my leadership style.
Wow, that's great. Leading by example is a good answer, and it's another evidence that the foreign that you were a good leader in your group. So thank you so much for sharing your idea. But as you may know, so this is a good answer, but there is no right answer or there is no wrong answer. So it means that there are so many different perspectives and experience of leadership. So anything can be an answer. As Dr. Sadiq mentioned, the leading by example is a good answer, or adventure, challenge, control, creativity, environment, or trust. Anything can be an answer. But you know, we should think about what the cornerstone means. So for your information, a cornerstone is a foundational element or the key principle upon that something is built. So it originated from the architect, where the cornerstone is the first stone laid during the construction of a building. That is an orientation for the entire structure. So in leadership and organizational context, a cornerstone refers to key principles or value or practices that form the foundation of effective leadership. So I think this would serve as a guideline or principles that influence leadership effectiveness. So once again, I like to point out that you, as a leader or future leader, you have to clarify your own sense and definition and the cornerstone of leadership. So this is answer to your first question and my first recommendation to everyone.
That's nice. Yeah, you mentioned about kind of critically reflect on ourselves as a leader, right? Kind of like understanding where we come from as a leader. Why do you think that reflection is so important for the leadership process?
So the reflection, right? So you probably heard of the Socrates, the famous quote, know thyself or know yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So however, yeah, we should think about the true meaning of know thyself or know yourself. Because to truly grow as a better leader, so it all starts with self-awareness and
Right.
or the self-reflection.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, we should remember that the knowing yourself includes not only your strengths, but also your weaknesses and limitation, including your own self-contradiction and paradox. So the more accurately you understand yourself, such as your strengths, weaknesses, the motivators, motivations, and stress responses, the clearer your path to growth become effective leader. So again, by knowing yourself, you can set the right direction for your personal and leadership development. So for example, your personality or how you cope with stress, what motivates you, and even your defense mechanism all influence your leadership style. The better you understand these factors, the
Mm-hmm.
more effectively you can lead. Absolutely, in these factors, your own definition, that is your leadership cornerstone that I just pointed out, is included too. So if you want to be an effective leader, please truly understand the meaning of know thyself. And this is the reason why the popular leadership theories such as the emotional intelligence, the EQ, or
Mm-hmm.
authentic leadership, and so on, that includes the self-awareness as a foundation or critical dimension.
Do you want to earn CPE credit? Take this course of MyCPE 1 to earn free credit. Click the link in the description to get started.
Oh, very interesting, very interesting. Emotional intelligence and knowing our strength, also knowing our weakness, as you mentioned. How do you think the weakness helps us to be a leader, and how do we deal with the weaknesses as we understand in some portions we can't do very well, but how that impacts on the people that we're trying to lead?
Well, actually, I think everyone has their own weakness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I know that in our organization development or other management perspectives, so many people these days the focus on their strengths or some positive things. I think this is a good changes and good things for everyone these days, but it does not mean that everyone has no weaknesses, right?
Right, right.
So, but truly understanding ourselves include not only the understanding the strengths or positive things, but also the weaknesses or some negative things. So I think this is the reason why, as a human being, before the leader, we are all human being, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a human being, we should understand not only ourselves, but also maybe others, especially our followers. Maybe if you understand yourself or your weaknesses, you will gonna more familiar or you're gonna understand others' weaknesses as well as another human being. So I
Mm-hmm.
this is another good step or first step to be an effective leader.
Nice. That's profound insight, Dr. Park. Thank you. Speaking of leadership, I understand you recently published a book, Oppenheimer Leadership during the Manhattan Project. Why did you choose Oppenheimer, and how does that leadership relate to modern challenges, especially in the context of technology and AI?
Okay, thank you so much. First of all, thank you so much for the recognition to my recent publication.
Mhm.
Yes, so let me explain why Robert Oppenheimer and why I focused on his leadership.
Right.
So, as you may know, the J. Robert Oppenheimer was an American physicist, the best known for leading the creation of the atomic bomb during World War II. So he headed the Manhattan Project, a secret United States program that developed the bomb that dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945 in Japan. So after the war, the Oppenheimer had mixed feeling about his role, especially about the moral implication of nuclear weapons. So during the Cold War, he lost his security clearance because of his opposition to building more powerful hydrogen bomb and his past political connections. So probably you heard of the very famous movie Oppenheimer
Mhm.
that is the last year. So this is also related to that story. But from the leadership perspectives, Oppenheimer's story provides valuable lessons for today's leaders. It's because he showed how to handle the complex or uncertain situation by bringing together a diverse group of scientists to work together a common goal. And his ability to facilitate collaboration and adaptability is especially relevant to, I think, the fast-paced or
Mhm.
tech-driven workplaces. Because his approach to shared leadership, so where everyone's expertise is valued, or is a great model for modern teams that rely on cross-functional input. So I believe the leaders today that face similar challenges, particularly with the rise of AI and hybrid work.
Mhm.
So Oppenheimer's ability to balance his genius with delegation while managing personal and professional conflicts, I think it offers a strong example of how to navigate contradiction in leadership. So by the way, the Oppenheimer's life was full of contradiction. So as a scientist, he was committed to advancing knowledge, but also created a weapon of mass destruction. So this shows the tension between intellectual achievement and the moral consequences of one's actions. He was an effective leader, but he struggled with the ethical implication of the bomb
Right.
and had conflict in his personal life, including his political associations that led to his step down from key positions. So this kind of paradox in Oppenheimer's life highlights the challenges the leaders face in balancing personal belief, professional duty, and ethical responsibility issues that are still very relevant today.
Mhm. Yeah, and if they kind of follow the same pattern, or if they are more ethical, how would you think that will impact the leaders in current world to make decisions in the future?
So could you please repeat your question? Is about
Oh,
Oppenheimer?
sure, yes. It's about the Oppenheimer paradox, how the leader can learn from the situation or learn from the event that happened before.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you so much. That's a good point because I focused on his paradox or his self-contradiction. So when you talk about Oppenheimer's life, the many people focus on the contradiction he embodied. Christopher Nolan, the director of the movie Oppenheimer, he mentioned in an interview that Oppenheimer's story is full of paradox and ethical dilemmas. But
Mhm.
similarly, the many film critics and audience around the world have commented on this contradiction and paradox with article and reviews titled things like Oppenheimer's story, such as contradictory man. But why do people focus not only on his genius as a physicist or his incredible achievement as the father of the atomic bomb, but instead, the why people more focused on the contradiction he showed, the ordinary flaw and imperfections he had as a person? So the biggest contradiction people see in Oppenheimer is that he was the key person behind creating the atomic bomb. But after the war, he was against using it. Yes, he was the leader and director of the project. He was the father of the atomic bomb. But after seeing the destruction in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, even though the war was over, he realized a new kind of danger was coming, the tension between the United States and Soviet Union and nuclear armed race will begin. So because of this, he opposed building the hydrogen bomb that was even more powerful than atomic bomb he created. So the fact that he changed his stance before and after building the bomb is regarding as the biggest contradiction in his life. But I believe we should think about the paradox or contradiction the more closely and thoroughly. Actually, the being contradictory just means the being human. Yes, we all have our own contradiction in our minds and our behaviors. So let's think about the movie character or characters in the any type of story. Characters in stories who are complex and filled with inner conflict, they are the ones we connect with and we are attracted, not the ones who are purely good or bad. That's why Oppenheimer's paradox or contradiction are not just his defection,
Mhm.
they make him more human and multidimensional. That is what makes us feel attracted to him. So we should think of the paradox and paradoxical situation we face in leadership. So on one hand, we know we should not be an autocratic leader or dictator, but sometimes we have no choice, right?
Yes, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, we understand the good leadership leads to better performance. We learned
Mhm.
from school. However, there are so many other things to worry about beyond just leadership in the workplace. And even though we know that only our followers, our subordinate, can truly judge our leadership, it's painful to be evaluated by others. Also, in many cases, in many situations, it's hard to apply what we have learned about being a good leader. So this kind of a contradiction reflects the gap between the ideal form of leadership and the reality we face every day. Like this, we are all people full of contradiction and paradox. It was not just Oppenheimer. each of us have the contradiction within ourselves. Then can I continue a little bit more?
Oh,
Because this is
please do.
very
Yes, it's
important.
so
Yeah,
interesting
of course.
conversation.
Because I just wrote the book, so I'm sorry I have a lot of talk about. So I should explain how Oppenheimer's acceptance of his own contradiction connects to leadership. So in
Mhm.
other words, how does our acceptance of our self-contradiction help us to be an effective leader? First, as I pointed out, everyone has contradiction that makes us human being. And accepting this contradiction is linked to being authentic, and it gives us a chance to become a better person. And when you accept our own flaws and defects, it helps us to understand others better, others. So no matter how hard it may be to understand the actions of others or behavior of others or their attitude of others, especially your followers,
Mhm.
it might help to remember that they, like us, they are also full of contradiction. Their action and their decisions may simply come from navigating their own contradictions, even if those differ from our own. So finally, if we can fully accept others as they are, we can become better individuals and better leaders. So maybe I believe that becoming a good leader starts with accepting both our own and others' flaws and contradictions. Yeah, this is the long answer to your very good question.
Access latest and trending CPE courses with my CPE One Unlimited Access subscription. Subscribe now.
Thank you. Yeah, I can see how it works and kind of like coming from the emotional intelligence, knowing other, understanding other, and also there is a balance between profit and the greater good. We want to focus solely on profit, or we want to make some impact on the society and the good impact, obviously. That kind of brings back the memory of Albert Einstein at the same time, another scientist. So what is the relationship like between Oppenheimer and Einstein? Or what was the leadership lesson we can derive from this leadership styles?
Yeah, that's another great question because even though I mentioned Oppenheimer is a good leader, he also is kind of the human being. So it
Mhm.
means he also has his mistake or flaws. So if we take a look at the closer look at Oppenheimer's leadership, there is not only good points, but also the bad points he made. So among the bad points that we can find his arrogance or the hubris in his relationship with Albert Einstein that you mentioned. So while they are both some of the most famous scientists of the 20th century, and even though they worked together at the Institute of Advanced Study in Princeton in the United States,
Mhm.
their relationship was actually quite not good. So one major source of tension was Einstein's rejection of quantum physics, a field that Oppenheimer greatly respected and contributed to. But Einstein famously said, God does not play dice, refusing to accept the randomness at the heart of quantum physics. So this frustrated Oppenheimer deeply and leading him to once say, Einstein is completely crazy. So on top of this, the two had very different personalities. While Einstein was more reserved and philosophical, Oppenheimer was known to be confident and assertive. So this crash in both scientific belief and personalities meant that, and different from the movie Oppenheimer showed, the relationship was far from friendly. By the way, we can connect this to the concept of humility, the importance of humility in leadership.
Mhm.
So, do you know the level 5 leadership pyramid that was introduced in the famous bestseller in the business area, The Good to Great, written by Jim Collins? Have you heard of that?
I have heard about it, yes.
Yeah, right.
But
That
for
is
the listeners, would you kind of explain it a little bit, like five
yeah.
steps?
Right, exactly. The bestseller and very steady seller. So in this book, so Jim Collins found the consistent pattern of leadership among the top companies. So he found all the companies he identified as great companies were led by level 5 executives or level 5 CEOs. So at the very top of the pyramid is level 5, and the two key qualities that define this level, they are the willpower and humility. So according to Jim Collins, the most successful companies, those that go from good to great as title, these great company are led by CEOs or executives who possess the both of these qualities. So these leaders are extremely driven and ambitious, but their ambition is not for themselves. It's for the success and vision of the company as a whole.
Mhm.
While their willpower is already well proven when they promoted to executive or CEO, what truly makes them exceptional is their humility. In fact, the Collins argues that humility is the defining trait that separates the truly great executives from the rest. So, as we so often in the real world, real business world, the power that comes with leadership can often lead to arrogance and overconfidence in one's own ability. However, the most successful leaders avoid this trap by remaining humble despite this power and achievement. So as the leader rises to the rank or job level, there's often more opportunity for arrogance to emerge,
Right.
like Oppenheimer. So, but true level 5 leaders understand that humility is the cornerstone of their success and the key to leading their organizations to greatness. So, this is what Oppenheimer made kind of his forte, and we can get some lesson learned from his story, the relations between Oppenheimer and Albert Einstein.
Very interesting. Willpower and humility, and those would be a very good lesson for our listeners as well as we get toward to the executive management position. Yeah, we see a lot of arrogance or being following the humility would be a great lesson to learn. So, among the various effective leadership style Oppenheimer demonstrated, you have explained a few already. What do you think is the most important lesson for the leader if we think about the leaders today to learn from Oppenheimer?
Yeah, right. Because I just mentioned his bad point, I have to mention his good point as well. So I think I can say it's a shared leadership or the bottom of leadership style he showed in the Manhattan Project. So let's imagine what some of the top scientists of the time looks like. So they probably were not average people. So most of them were brilliant, but also pretty eccentric, very strange, weird. Oppenheimer himself was also often described as odd and peculiar before he came to Los Alamos Laboratory. And on the top of that, some of the scientists he had to lead in the project were even more accomplished than he was. For example, people like Arthur Compton, James Chadwick, Enrico Fermi, and even his friend Ernst Lawrence had all won Nobel Prizes before joining the Manhattan Project. So when Oppenheimer, who had no Nobel Prize and no real leadership experience, that he was chosen to head the project, the many people questioned the decision. But despite of all this, Oppenheimer managed to bring these brilliant minds together and lead them to success. So I think there are definitely some interesting similarity between the scientists who worked on the Oppenheimer during the Manhattan Project and the younger generation of workers, especially millennials and Gen Z, the I generation.
Mhm.
So both groups are driven by a strong desire for innovation and making an impact. The scientists on the Manhattan Project were working on groundbreaking science, were pushing the limit of what was possible. In a similar way, today's younger workers are eager to be part of forward-thinking projects, particularly in areas like technology, AI, and sustainability. I believe they both share a passion for contributing to something bigger than themselves. So in addition, so both groups expect a certain style of leadership. The scientists working under Oppenheimer were given a lot of freedom and autonomy in their areas of expertise, with Oppenheimer's guiding rather than the micromanaging or the nano management, that famous term from the Tesla CEO.
Mhm.
Yeah, but this aligns with what millennials and Gen Z workers often look for in leadership today. They want to be empowered and trusted to do their work while also having the support and guidance of a good leader when needed. So both groups thrive in environment where shared leadership and collaborations are emphasized and everyone's voice is valued. So I think the key takeaway we can learn from Oppenheimer's leadership might lie in what we now call shared leadership or collective leadership. So this kind of leadership is about everyone in the group or organization, the sharing responsibility and working together toward a common goal. So this approach is also a kind of a contemporary leadership theories and relatively new leadership theories that were introduced after the 2010s. So even though Oppenheimer already showed it almost 80 years ago, yeah, I think the shared leadership is a key takeaway we should learn.
Awesome. Before we learn a little bit more about the shared leadership, because that kind of piqued my interest, how we define shared leadership. First, I want to learn more about if it's applicable to today's organization, or even if we do, how that fits into different organization. Do you see a strong fit in any specific environment, or it can be used in any organization, in academia, or let's say in manufacturing organization? Um, What's your thought on that?
Yeah, I think, yeah. So it looks like you probably think the concept of shared leadership looks so cool and so nice,
Mhm.
but I'm sure, me, including some of the audience of this podcast that might have a question that, is this concept of shared leadership really existing in the industry or exists working well, right?
Mhm.
So
Yes.
my answer is actually yes, because so other than Manhattan Project, there are several the companies were applying the concept of this shared leadership already, such as Jappos or Airbnb and the famous W.L. Gore asset and so on. So among them, maybe can I give some more detailed information or example on the shared
Please.
leadership in the real world?
Yes, that would be awesome. Please do.
Okay, I see. So I'm going to explain about the case of the W.L. Gore and Associates and its very unique organization structure, the lattice structure. Lattice structure. So W.L. Gore and Associates, have you heard of that company? The
Uh,
Gore and Associates?
I have not.
Yeah, but probably you heard of the Gore tax. Yeah, they produce many different kind of unique product, more than 1,000 from medical devices to
Oh.
high-performance Gore-Tex fabrics.
Mhm.
Yeah, they are very famous in the innovation and technology-driven solutions and also very well known for its unique organization structure and management style. Also, they are always listed in the 100 best companies to work for list. So this is a strong evidence they are doing a great job on not only profitability, but also as a great workplace. But I can say the one reason the Gore is repeatedly named one of the 100 best companies to work for is their unusual corporate culture where employees are known as associate and bosses are not found. This is related to an example of shared leadership. Yes, Gore has an extreme team-based organizational structure that eliminates the traditional hierarchy. Associates, the employees in their company, they are organized around self-directed teams at dozens of manufacturing and sales offices around the world. And they have very flat hierarchy. It means few management level called its organization structure is named Redis organization structure. So founder and CEO, the former CEO, the W. Gore and associate, the Bill Gore is a creator of the Redis organization. So I can say their unique Redis organization is catalyst to participation and communication and creativity. So unlike a traditional ladder structure, so where connections only more vertically, a ladder structure allows connections to be made in any direction. So through the ladder structure, or employees associates at Gore can communicate and collaborate with anyone in the company, regardless of their department or position. So like this, we need to consider how we can design organizational structure where the shared leadership is working well. This is a good example of a shared leadership. It's really working and it's very effective.
That's very nice to hear, and sounds like that would be an organization I would like to go work, because I don't want anyone to kind of micromanage me, or as you said, nano-manage me. Instead, I want to have more freedom and work in an environment where I have the authority to make my own decisions. That's probably why I'm in academia, because it provides me opportunity to make my own decisions in lots of cases. But if I want to create a similar environment for my organization or my department where I'm going to lead in some point, what would be the key characteristics I should be looking for to, or kind of exercise? I will have some more questions around that, like how we can develop, knowing Oppenheimer, knowing Einstein, different kind of leadership. That would be coming up, but first I want to know what could be some characteristics for shared leader or person
Yeah.
who's following shared leadership.
Right, exactly. Even though maybe if you heard of the keyword of shared leadership, sharing or some, because another name or another label of those kind of leadership is the distributed leadership or collaborative leadership or bottom up or some democratic leadership, something like that, or co-leadership. You probably know what it is. However, we should know about its detail to have or to show those kind of the leadership style. Fortunately, there are so many previous research so far because the many leadership scholars is just working on the concept of shared leadership and how effective it is. So according to research, the shared leadership is about spreading leadership roles across the team or organization instead of having just one person in charge. So it's a way of working where everyone contributes and leadership shifts based on who has the most expertise or strengths for a particular task. So in a shared leadership setup, the whole team work together and they share ideas and make decisions as a group or whole as a whole, rather than relying on single leader to call all the shots. So it also involves empowerment, where team members are trusted to take the lead in areas they are skilled in. So this sense of trust gives everyone ownership and responsibility or engagement over their work. Leadership is not fixed in shared leadership. It's flexible. But depending on the situation, one person may take the lead on one task while someone else step up for another. But by the way, for shared leadership to work well, open and honest communication is key. Everyone should feel comfortable voicing their thought or speaking out and giving feedback. It's also built on mutual trust with team members believing in each other's abilities and their competencies that helps the team function smoothly and effectively. And the decisions are made collectively
Mhm.
with input from everyone and leading to stronger, more rounded result. And in the end, the shared leadership promoted teamwork, values everyone's input, and helps the group or organization achieve its goals by working together. Yes, that's what I found so far by my research and many practices on shared leadership.
That's very interesting. As you said, there are some organization who is currently doing really good and following that leadership patterns. And that one question always comes to my mind, how as a leader, we differentiate between them. But he also made a great point that no leadership is fixed and the style is not fixed. We continuously adopt new styles as we go into different situation. Is there any competencies that we need, or is there any functions in the organization that facilitates this kind of leadership?
So I think I already mentioned about the importance of empowerment because so even though you are going to apply or accept this kind of the shared leadership into your organization, it's possible your organization has still appointed a leader, right?
Right, yes.
Appointed leader. Every organization has appointed leader, but
Mhm.
the Japanese state eliminated the leadership position, so I cannot say it's successful or failure because it's still working, but I cannot say it's rigid. However, the most companies where apply the concept of shared leadership, they still have appointed leader position and they will serve a job level. So it means even though in shared leadership process, the role and responsibility or some attitude or some perspective of appointed leader is very critical. So upon empowerment, this is the reason why empowerment is one of the demonstrate the behavioral demonstration when the team or group has a shared leadership. I think I can say on other bottom-up leadership style from appointed leader also very helpful to flourish the shared leadership in organization. Maybe if we compare the autocratic leader or dictator and the more democratic leader who want to pull the people, not to push the people, the latter person, these leaders are more fit for the shared leadership situation. So like this, I can say the role of the appointed leader is still very important in shared leadership as an antecedent to make a better or more higher performance from the shared leadership.
That's awesome. And as we talk about the power differences, there is always somebody who's holding the power in the organization, even though we believe shared leadership. And kind of like similar way, do you see any similarities between the organizational development, the philosophies, the values that we believe in practicing organization development has something in common with the shared leadership?
So I'm sorry, so could you please,
Oh,
once more? Yeah.
sure, yeah, absolutely. In organization development, in the practice of organization development as a field, we always preach to take feedback from the employees, take feedback from everybody around you to make the decision. It's kind of like a bottom-up approach. Do you
Right,
feel like it's a good avenue for shared leadership to shine, or
right.
we have in
Exactly.
common?
Yeah. So even though there are so many classification in leadership theories, but if we divide them two, there are two leadership approaches, the top-down approach to leadership and the bottom-up approach to leadership. The most traditional approach to leadership belong to the first one, the top-down. So they are explained how heroic the single leader is doing or what kind of the behavior they should show and what kind of the personality or attitude or their mindset is helpful to the organizational effectiveness. However, the latter one, the bottom-up approach to leadership, they are talking about how to pull or how to help our followers to make a better performance. Maybe shared leadership, distributed leadership, spiritual leadership, empowering leadership, or what other. But anyway, this kind of leadership belong to, or humble leadership. What I explained, what I pointed out in the Oppenheimer's case is a kind of the bottom-up approach to leadership. Absolutely, think about our followers, the key characteristics of these days, the followers, the younger generation.
Mhm.
Nobody wants to get pushed up, or nobody like a micromanagement. So in this situation, maybe I can say everyone knows which one is better or which one is fit to current situation. Maybe the latter one, the bottom-up approach to leadership. So
Okay.
I think this is the reason why the kind of shared leadership is getting more important,
Yes.
not only in academia, but also in the practice as well.
Very interesting. Thank you. I hope we'll have more opportunity to learn from you. It was a great conversation, and we get to know a lot about the shared leadership. To wrap this up, is there anything additional that you'd like to advise for today's leaders?
Yeah, okay, that's another great question. Thank you so much, Dr. Sadiq, because yeah, even though I mentioned I talked about the leadership a lot, I just in my mind, the two things was just popped up. I missed.
Mhm.
So I like to point out the two things as a piece of advice to today's leaders. So first one is about the importance of perceived leadership. Yes, this is related to what I just mentioned. And the other one, the focus is on how to become an effective leader despite having toxic leaders around us. The first, so let's take a moment to understand why only your followers can truly evaluate your leadership. So you probably have seen or know the image of the universe, the Andromeda galaxy.
Mhm.
Is that image of the universe real, or is it just a perceived universe? Yes, it's not the real universe. No human has ever traveled beyond our galaxy. It's our own perception of the universe in our brain, in our mind.
Mhm.
So in the leadership process, while there is the leadership behavior itself, we must remember that there is also perceived leadership, how followers, how subordinates subjectively interpret and accept the leader's behaviors. So this perceived leadership is often even more important. So again, the leadership is not just about what the leader does, it's about how those actions are perceived by others, especially your followers. So we should know and understand why my followers are the only person who can evaluate my leadership. And second, second, I mentioned about the other one. So I like to finalize today's podcast. Right, this is the last question, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
also,
I
if we
hope
want to
so.
learn more, can you just talk a little bit about your book that you just wrote? Because I'm very interested.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There's no problem. So yeah. Anyway, I like to finalize this question
Mm-hmm.
because another small tip: the how to avoid identification with the aggressor. That is about how to become an effective leader despite having toxic leaders around us, especially your ex-bosses, ex-leaders. So let's think about why do we end up becoming like the people we hate or criticize. So in psychology, the identification with aggressor explain this. So it's when we unconsciously start to act like the people we fear or dislike as a way to cope. So it's like how a child who experiences family violence can grow up to become a violent parent. So this happens a lot in the workplace too. Employees, especially those with less expensive no, I'm sorry, it's with a less experience on leadership, so often just copy their boss's leadership style, whether it's good or bad. So
Mhm.
to break this cycle, we need to ask ourselves if the leadership style we learned in the past still work today. So if they don't, we should let them go and focus
Mhm.
on developing our own leadership values based on what we truly believe. So by doing this, we can better evaluate others' leadership and avoiding repeating the mistake of past leaders. So don't forget that if you don't overcome it, you end up becoming like them. So
Yep.
this is what I pointed out.
That's a very interesting lesson. And what exactly you explained in your book? Which part of the conversation, or can we get to know more about the whole leadership and the Oppenheimer leadership and the the way you summarize is that the same?
So actually, I think because in terms of Oppenheimer, maybe I think I already mentioned a lot. So
Mhm.
first of all, we should learn from his the paradox or self-contradiction. We should understand that we are all human beings. We have our strong. We everyone has not only strengths but also weaknesses. We should understand. Sometimes we should make a different decision from the past if we
Mhm.
believe the maybe if we understand we are all we have a weaknesses or we have some imperfection factor, maybe we can make a better decision regardless our past decisions.
Right.
So I think this is what I learned from his story. And also I think the shared leadership, humble leadership, or I can say another good thing from his leadership style is the some co-leadership between him and another the leader in Manhattan Project, Leslie Groves, the General Leslie Groves.
Mhm.
When you think about the good leader, the many people says the good leadership has to have the balance between the task leadership and relational leadership. It means they should have the hard skill and soft skill as well. Hard skill is about some kind of technical skill, or it's more focused on techniques or skills we should have. And maybe that's about how to complete the project, how to build, how to create the new atomic bomb first time in the world. However, relational leadership is more focused on the soft skill, is focused on the relations among peoples. So I think the both divided those kind of role the very efficiently. So I think maybe in my mind, those kind of things are popped up, even though the book is written in Korean only so far. But I'm looking, maybe my publisher in Korea is looking for publishing in the United States. So maybe there are so many things we can learn from his story. But thank you
Mhm.
so much for mentioning that.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you from myself and my audience as well. Thank you, Dr. Young Yu Park, for being with us. Hopefully, we'll get you back soon. And I do have millions of the questions. I'm sure my audience have the similar questions for you. Thank you. You have a great rest of the day.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me today.
Access latest and trending CPE courses with my CPE One Unlimited Access subscription. Subscribe now